he cheated. So I used a fundraiser stage to ruin his reputation. I should have known my relationship with Patrick was going downhill the moment he started calling everything in life a strategic move, including our grocery shopping. Buying two kinds of cereal diversifies our breakfast assets, which was the kind of nonsense only a man who owns six nearly identical blazers says. But I clung to hope anyway because I'm a professional event planner and therefore incapable of admitting a project is doomed until it is literally on fire. The actual betrayal, however, came to light one Thursday afternoon, while I was knee-deep in floral arrangements for the annual Spring Harmony Gala, a massive fundraiser so complicated it required spreadsheets, sketches, emergency chocolate, two interns, and one prayer circle. I was arranging centerpieces shaped like blooming crescents when my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Elise, who is both wonderfully supportive and physically incapable of being subtle. Her text read, "Isn't this your boyfriend? Also, why is he holding hands with a woman who looks like the human version of a Pinterest board?" And attached was a photo taken at a courtyard cafe, showing Patrick in one of his strategic move blazers, sitting far too close to a woman with perfect hair, perfect posture, and what I suspect were perfect intentions of ruining my afternoon. I zoomed in until the pixels got blurry, hoping it was just someone who coincidentally shared Patrick's entire face and wardrobe. But no, it was him, smiling that smug, "I read leadership books for fun" smile that I once found charming, but in that moment made me consider hurling a vase. Instead, I took a deep breath, put down the carnations, and quietly informed my intern that I'd be stepping out for emotional hydration, which is my polite way of saying I am about to spiral. I went to my car, stared at the photo for a long and dramatic minute, then did what any reasonable person would do. I drove to work on the gala even harder, because avoiding problems is my favorite pastime, second only to alphabetizing my spice rack. But later that night, lying in bed, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw his blazer out the window like a dramatic movie heroine, partly because those blazers were expensive, and I might sell them later for revenge money. No, I was going to create something monumental, something poetic, something that would let him reveal himself without me lifting a single finger, well, maybe one finger, the index one, to click send. So the next day, I invited Patrick to the Spring Harmony Gala as my special guest of honor, a title vague enough to inflate his ego without giving him any clue of what was coming. He accepted instantly, of course, because Patrick thrived on attention the way plants thrive on sunlight, if sunlight also performed quarterly evaluations. Meanwhile, I got to work crafting the centerpiece of my revenge, which was not messy or cruel, but beautifully symbolic. Every year, the gala features a legacy presentation, where we honor community members whose actions have impacted others in a meaningful way, and usually we celebrate volunteer or donors. But this year, I decided to highlight someone whose actions had impacted me personally, and not in the desired way. I created a presentation titled "The Importance of Integrity in Community Partnerships," which, on the surface, sounded like I had swallowed a corporate handbook, but was, in truth, a masterclass in metaphorical callouts. I gathered anonymous stories from people in the community who had been lied to, misled, or casually disregarded by people they trusted, and I wove their words into a narrative about honesty, loyalty, and what happens when someone treats others like disposable backup plans. I did not name Patrick, not once, but oh, did his conscience do the heavy lifting? The night of the gala arrived, shimmering with fairy lights, violin music, and the faint scent of lavender drifting through the air like nature whispering, "Good luck, girl." Patrick showed up looking smugly handsome in yet another blazer. Navy blue, subtle pinstripes, radiated, "I think I deserve a corner office." And he greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, like he hadn't emotionally betrayed me over iced coffee. I simply smiled sweetly, told him he looked strategic, and guided him to his reserved table, the one directly in front of the main stage, where he would have a front row seat to the greatest performance I would ever put on without using pyrotechnics. The event began, speeches were made, money was raised, and soon it was time for my presentation. I walked onto the stage in my best gown, held the microphone, and announced the theme of the night, recognizing the impact of choices, which made Patrick nod like he was part of a TED Talk. Then the slideshow began. Gentle quotes about sincerity, stories of hidden heartbreak, anonymous accounts of people discovering truths behind lies, all read by voiceover, accompanied by soft instrumental music, like an emotional spa treatment. I watched Patrick as hidden guilt began to crawl across his face like a slow-moving shadow, his jaw tightening, shoulders sinking a little. He wasn't sure whether he was imagining it or whether the universe had decided to call him out publicly through interpretive PowerPoint. But by the time the presentation reached its final words, integrity is not optional. It is the foundation of every lasting relationship. He looked like he had been gently hit by a very polite bus. The crowd applauded. Several people dabbed their eyes, and Patrick sat frozen. After the presentation ended, donors approached me, praising the emotional honesty of the piece and asking how I had written something so universally resonant. And I just smiled and said, I draw inspiration from life, while Patrick stood silently beside me, sweating through his blazer, like a man who had finally realized that actions do, in fact, have consequence. Later, when we stepped outside together, he finally stammered, Was that about me? And I looked him dead in the eye, smiled with all the grace of a woman who has regained her dignity, and said, If the shoe fits, Patrick, feel free to lace it, before walking away into the cool night air, leaving him standing there looking like a malfunctioning parking meter. In the weeks that followed, I returned to my life with a renewed sense of peace, finalized the gala's donations, won an award for most impactful presentation, and started casually seeing someone new, a florist named Jonah, who arranges flowers like he's composing music and doesn't speak in corporate metaphors. Patrick tried texting me twice, then once more, then finally stopped. My cousin Elise printed the slideshow quotes and hung them on her fridge under the magnet that says, We don't accept clowns here. As for me, I've learned that betrayal hurts, but creative revenge, non-destructive, symbolic, and aesthetically pleasing, tends to heal faster than any bandage. And now every year when I plan the gala, people ask about the presentation from that night, the one that made half the audience cry and one man reconsider his entire life. And I smile and say, oh, that one was inspired by a personal experience. Though I never named Patrick because honestly, anonymity was half the revenge. Nowadays, I live lighter, laugh easier, plan better events, and if destiny ever tries to hand me another cheating boyfriend, I will politely return him to sender with a lovely bow and a slideshow outlining exactly why. Until then, I savor my freedom, my work, and the comforting knowledge that sometimes the best justice is simply letting someone reveal themselves while you stand on stage holding the microphone and the moral high ground.